Hello, I'm Charlene of the Rainbow Frequency. Today's food for thought topic is whether you come to this during the live recording of this or you see it at a later date. These things are timeless, and I appreciate any comments that you may have. Just a bit, as we have to in life, right? Grief is something that is a really tricky emotion. Emotions are not logical, rational, or even predictable always, right? You kind of get to know the nuances. Hello to everyone, but I'm not going to individually say hi. But thank you very much for being here. And again, I will try to read your comments as they come in and have a dialogue with you, but also give you this conversation topic that's been rattling around in my brain wanting to be discussed. We are a collective. We are also individuals having experiences, depending on where you are in your life journey and how long you've been here in this lifetime and how many rodeos you've been through past life, so to speak. You know, we each have our own unique experiences and journeys for the lessons that we've come here to learn. I was telling my son this morning that when you don't listen, it tends to build and get bigger, louder, sometimes destructive, to try to get your attention, perhaps. You know, it just sometimes like a wave in the ocean, if not adjusted to and addressed and acknowledged, it can gain momentum. Grief is something that we are all experiencing in one way, shape, or form right now, currently, as individuals as well as a collective. In one aspect, you know, if you're going to leave the Piscean era and move towards the Aquarian era, there is going to be some ways in which you will have to grieve the leaving one era behind, even if you're excited to move forward. To that topic, you know, for those of us who have been itching for change, really wanting it to come eagerly, like stamping our little racehorse feet, pawing at the ground, like, come on, go, I'm ready, I want it. It's still going to have bits and pieces for us to read and process in order to leave the gate and move forward. Live, they're different heats for a race for a reason. You know, whether you are grieving an individual who in the last however long has passed for you, there's that grief, like we just addressed. There's the grieving of an ending era. If you have left a job, even when you've chosen to leave the relationship, whether job or you're dating someone and you choose to break up with them, you find sometimes that you get caught off guard by how much you have to grieve the ending of relationship, even when it's your choice. I once sold a car, ready, so excited to be moving forward with the new car, but then handing the keys over, that was an error of my own. that I was letting go of. I mean, even with the clothes in my closet, where recently, I'm 44, and I've held on to clothes for 20 years or more. And it's one of those things where it's just like, have I worn this in 10 years? No. Is it still painful to let go of that? And does it kind of become this quest to find the right home that will also change these threads that I've carried and they're a part of my collection? That's not everyone's attachment. No, some people might look at me and think that's so materialistic and how silly. But for me, my clothing has always been an aspect of myself through which I portrayed my own unique artistic nature. I used to, as a child, watch runway fashion instead of cartoons, and I'm just like, yes, I love this. And there's a certain artistry to well-tailored clothes that, for me, like a well-made building, it's just, so delightfully exciting. I don't feel about all my clothes the same way. No, I have some leggings that are not very well made, and yeah, they're disposable. But however, there's a pair of sweatpants I got from the boys section at Target with bats on them that have lasted quite some time, and they're very well reinforced because people spend a lot of time learning that they need to be more indestructible. And my God, those pants, like, they're starting to come apart, and I'm like, oh my God, I need a replacement. And like, my son and I bought them together, and we had the same pant for a while, and it's just like, deeply cherished these pants. Like, oh my God, it's painful to let them go. And it's just, that's silly, but at the same time, personally, I'd rather have fewer things that mean more to me than a bunch of disposable crap. That's just me. That's why it's funny, because like, I showed a picture on Instagram of my kitchen, and I am a magpie collector of joy. I find it in the most probably surprising to some people places, and I hold on to things that probably a lot of other people wouldn't. But this period of massively purging all that doesn't bring me joy, I laughed because I'm like, damn, an awful lot, and this brings me joy. So, that's a weird way of getting back to grief. So, like, when I was going through a divorce, when I was going through my divorce, my previous husband, married now, I had to actually seek joy wherever I could find it in the world. I immersed myself in nature. First, I thought running, and I'm repeating myself a little if you've heard this one before. It's necessary sometimes to really focus on seeing joy even when you're determined not to. Flight risk. I'm sorry, I'm breaking up. I don't know how to fix that. But anyway, hi, flight risk. Ooh, and I just got distracted. And it's right now, in this world, the last 2 years has been an ongoing exercise at really trying to be mindful and aware of what's around you, but also really focusing on what brings you joy and what you can do to cultivate that. And currently, again, we're all collectively grieving something. Tell me you're not. I mean, go ahead. I'm not double dog daring you, but I mean, if you're not grieving something, this perhaps isn't your conversation. But I don't know. I really challenge you to sit with yourself and not really find something that you should acknowledge that you're grieving. Anyway, it's not about that. But currently, if you're watching this, as some of you are, we have been going through astrological alignments with great, great purpose, as we always have been since the dawn of time. And recently there's been, again, depending on how long you've been here, a lot of inner child healing, and personally a lot of inner teenager healing. Again, I'm 44, so moving on up, like healing, but like I've really been feeling a lot of the teenage moments. Part of that is because I have a teenager, and I tease him that both of us, his testosterone levels are going up, and so are mine. So, whew, it's a lot. It's a lot that we're all experiencing, processing. We're doing it for ourselves. But if you have people around you, which most of us do in one shape or form, whether it's coworkers, families, partners, keep in mind that while you're feeling your feelings and you need to, and you're processing them, and if anyone were to try to rush you through that, you'll be like, sorry if anyone got offended. But you have to then, if you're wanting to be compassionately involved or in relationship with anything, whether it's human being, animal, job, whatever, you have to allow it that same time for themselves to get there too, right? Like, we're not all going to get there at the same time. We're not all going to handle it the same way. We're not all going to find the same comforts. For example, like, I go hiking. And again, you've seen this on Instagram. I collect, and I have 2 cameras going, so sorry, bear with me. I collect things that bring me joy. Would this bring everyone joy? A seed. It's a tree seed. I forget which one. And then, shells. River trash, some people might think. Now this, I keep finding, and I have horrible lighting. I keep making these videos. I keep coming before you, bedraggled, a mess. Sometimes I wash my face for you. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I run a brush through my hair. Sometimes I don't. Environments are not perfectly put together because I'm a real person. Sure, I'm spiritual as the day is long and the night can stretch, but I'm also messy and not perfect. And the whole point of all that is it's not some illusion I'm trying to sell you. I'm trying to be here of support from the heart, sharing with you my experiences, trying to help you. If you want to work with me, I'm here. I'm available. I'm never going to see in your inbox. We're all together. We're experiencing a lot of despair and the challenges of moving forward, being stuck in between, being in that, like, is it happening? Am I doing it? I don't know. And you're doing it. Rome wasn't built in a day. Step by step, find your joy, not in delusions, distractions, or numbing it into existence, but on my hikes along, I find beautiful places. Now, I see these lovely people that collect sea glass that haven't made it to the ocean quite yet, even though I want to. And these are from the river, and they're Pepsi Cola bottle glass that's really quite cool. And oh, how freaking delightful. You gotta find the treasure, and if you can be at the ocean, finding beautiful sea glass. Oh, I'm at the river, and it leads to the ocean, so here I am. Wherever you go, there you are. Get excited. Not that easy always, but now bear in mind, maybe research if you should be handling such things overly much, but at the moment, these are bits of iron ore. Again, just river trash. But when you stop to think about the great effort be these chunk bits, I don't know. There's something to me to be appreciated in that strength and formulation. This is a bit of metal, again, corroded off debris, but as someone who picks up information from objects, I just feel lovely history. So one person's trash, another person's treasure. I really enjoy repurposing. Again, this is a bit sloughed off, but made it to where I found it. And so delightful. Snail shell. Wouldn't be lovely to have a little snail shell to carry all my stuff around in. Everyone's going to find their joy in different places. It's when you stop looking and you just fall down in that, like in the never-ending story, swamp of despair, and just give up. You're truly lost. I had someone once tell me that they'd lost their light, and it was the person that I'd been trying so hard to help them and help them and help them, and I realized I could give them the Energizer Bunny's worth of energy endless hours of eternity, and it would never be enough because they're willing to do the work for themselves to get there, and you have to fight for it, like that song, fight for your right to party. You have to fight for your joy. You have to. And you don't numb yourself into distraction, into faking the joy, because that's not going to work. You have to authentically, healthfully balance every day, sometimes several times throughout the day, depending on the day, depending on where the planets are and what they're doing. Because again, sometimes you just have to laugh, see the humor of well, fuck this super trine conjunct sky. Oh, this crucible and this petri dish that I'm being formed in is all the pressures. But power on, because you chose to be here to learn something. So let's do it. Let's put your back into it. Stop binging, whining, complaining about how awful it is. After a moment, that's thing, you really have to, before you can get to it is what it is, acknowledge the feeling. You have to acknowledge, I'm banging the table. Sorry, it got loud. You have to acknowledge how you feel. Right now, I have been angry. I have had to have picnics with my emotions, sitting down with them. How are you? Let's talk. Let's process. Let's get personal. Almost 2 years ago, July 11th. So on the one hand, I thank the universe because I really needed that time to do some heavy processing, and I wouldn't have been really ready when it just had happened. However, very weird to have almost 2 years go, and now finally we get to have a funeral. But again, at the 25th of the month, we have this craziness going on in the planets around us, really forcing us to sit with our feelings, to sit with our inner child, our inner teenager, all of our parts and pieces. And if we're doing that work, we're processing. We might not process it all. I'm not yet, but you're processing, hopefully, in chunks, bit by bit, sip of water, step by step, keep going. I've had moments where I've been at the grave, at the funeral, with the feelings. Sometimes I'm angry as hell with my inner child and doing hateful things. But I get mad. I just sit, let them have it. And then, all right, I understand that. We're not going to behave that way, are we? No? All right. Feel the feelings. Process the feelings. It's how you behave and act that matters, right? I would say, while I'm deeply spiritual, I don't really claim a religion because I haven't found specifically one that fits me completely. So it's more of a expansive concept of, and it's funny. These things are not linear. It's cyclical. I was becoming a Reiki master and then teacher in the time, and then after my dad passed. Now, leading up to it, I thought that would have been the hardest part, helping him transition. And it was hard. It was really hard. And leading up to it, my Reiki teacher had told me that I could sit with meditation, make a Reiki box, which I didn't make a Reiki box, or they're different, spirit box or different things to call that. But I just sit over and over and walk with him, going up the mountain to the gate, him and getting us there to where he was letting go of his fears to cross over. And it's funny because now that I'm getting ready to go to his actual funeral, he's doing the same thing with me, of sitting with me, all right, now feel it, imagine it, process. Sometimes it's the fear of getting there, that's the hardest part, because when you actually go and do, you're doing. And that's, for me at least, always easier than the worry and the imagining beforehand. So hopefully, in that long-winded rambling on, just remember that for yourselves. You know, like sometimes when we're somewhere new, we're so afraid that we haven't actually progressed that you cling to the fear of what it was, and you just have to breathe. Where am I now? Look around and take the step. And again, I've said this before, but in some war movie that I watched, they were giving advice as to like how to go into battle, and he was just like, you take one step, you to see what's fallen out around you, what's still around, what can be done, and then you take the next step. Again, what's fallen out, what's still there, what can be worked with, next step. And like apply this to a healing journey. Sometimes if you're making those personal choices to handle your grief, to heal yourself, to move on, it might not look how your friend or family or whatever person around you thinks you should be doing it. They're not you. Your existence is your own and is only yours to really be understood. So motherly advice, I would try to understand what you're doing and why, because you're the only one that can. And also, do what you need to do. Do it in the time that feels right. And don't expect it to be all wiped out in one go. Like these things have their layers. It takes time. And newness is hard. Moving forward into new terrain is uncomfortable. It is. It's new. Change. I love change, but it's still uncomfortable. All right, let's start off with Emily Dickinson's poets. I'm going to do some cards right quick, and then we got to move on. My son's probably going to pop through to go play outside. I homeschool. So many hats. I really should be doing dishes, doing my yoga, so many things. But this felt really important to take the time to be here with you all. So thank you for joining me. All right. Really, I have to say, for right now, help us for where we are in our healing journey in a way that is excited and delights body and spirit. All right. Oh, and this is why I do this. I will tell you, like, in any job, there are going to be parts that elate you, and there are going to be parts that are not always easy to swallow. And sometimes in readings, I have to say things that are hard. They're a little bit harsh, it's not always fun stuff to say, but here we go. Emily. I heart Emily Dickinson. A coward will remain, sir, until the fight is done, but an immortal hero will take his hat and run. All right, let's unpack that, because Emily takes a minute. It's not so simple. Poetry. I love poetry. I will say a sidebar. There was a statement. Again, I went to see this artist who his quote is on the ICA building here in Virginia. And all of that which he said, do I agree with? No. Some of it, great food for thought that I've been ruminating on. And he said, he's an artist, yes. First and foremost, for him, I hope I get this right, ethics. I'm just going to paraphrase because I'm not going to get it exactly right, and I don't want to do that. But basically, he sat down, and like, whether he was a shoemaker or an artist, for him, ethics and activism, I believe, perhaps was what he meant, but those were his core principles. For me, when you get, it's all about spiritual inequality and poetry, because it all goes together so much, and it's so expansive. And poetry really is a very simplified communication that is the most expansive form that I know. Anyway, a coward will remain, sir, until the fight is done. But an immortal hero will take his hat and run. To me, this ties into what I was saying. Like, you can hide in the trench, numbing yourself to what you're burying beneath the surface of yourself. You can let it all whir and be polished around you and just like la 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 la. You could do that, and then when it's done, come out. But an immortal hero will take his hat, and let's take out the pronouns that have to be masculine. Take out his hat and run. In the sake of the battle metaphor, you put your helmet on, which is a hat, and that brings a little delightful, like, show your true metal. You put the helmet on and put your head down and you face it, confront it. That is, for me, as a spiritual worker, as an energy worker, as your friend, I don't really care what capacity I'm here. Like, if any, perhaps, but you have to do that together for yourself. You have to have the courage to look yourself in the mirror and see what's there and work with it adequately to the best of your ability for yourself, as yourself, and then for the environment that you're a part of. Thank you, Emily. So yeah, let's not go into battle for the sake of being angry and telling people that they're wrong and I'm right and it should be done this way. Like, one of the most beautiful things I learned in going through a divorce and then remarrying is, a lot of times people in their first marriage have that attitude of, you're doing it wrong, this is how it should be done. Like, how dare you not pull the shower curtain closed after you take a shower? Or how dare you leave the sponge in the sink? You awful human being. Ah! And then, it's a second marriage, and hopefully you gotten to the point where you realize, like, that attitude isn't really going to help the situation. There are many ways to get there. There are many ways of doing things. Like, I'm a little bit less, I get pissed off. I do. But at the same time, I try to be more aware. And it's a partnership. It's a blending. It's, we have a lot of tendencies as human beings to be like, this is how I think, so therefore it must be true. And if you think differently, there must be something wrong with you. No. There are many different ways to think for a reason, because that's what really gets extension and progress into being. Like, I love the fact that one of the beautiful ramifications or causes, or how do we say this? You know, in the last 2 years, the work world has been home-oriented, but now so much more so. Now, perhaps people are having a hard time finding candidates for jobs, they're starting to be a little bit more expansive as to who could be a candidate for that job, thinking a little bit more outside the box, and realizing helpful the problem became a beautiful answer, so to speak. You know, like personally, in the beginning, when we were locked down and I couldn't do hair anymore, I had to really figure out how to have income, and I kept applying to jobs, and they told me over and over, sorry, you're not qualified for that. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? Do you know how much more goes into cutting hair than just scissors and a comb? I'm just saying, like, and having run a business for many years, and I mean, even being a mother, there's so many different hats and skills that one has to offer a job market that perhaps someone that just because they went to college and have the skill sets on a piece of paper but not real life experience, they're just going to sit there and be like, you're just going to pay me to look good and be here, right? Whereas somebody who has a little bit of a different experience will be like so excited to be there and busting their butt, you know, like, oh, let me do this. What about this? Like, I have this skill. Do you want this? You know, like, we're hopefully moving more to a world where we realize we all have to pull our weight and bring our skills to the table. And I really personally want it to be the most joyful potluck of all time, where everyone's bringing their best dish and we celebrate them. And like, there might be 13 different types of chili, but hot damn, they're all really great. All right. The Age of Light, you've been training for this for lifetimes. And thank you, Mew90. I'm really excited that you're here, all of you. I'm trying to read your comments, and thank you. I can't address every single one, but I'm so happy to see you all. We got Pleiades double mission, channeling, uplifting humanity. All right, I do believe in past lives. I do. I myself, like, if you want to get down to it, in my DNA, from my mother's line, it traces back to the first surviving human. So not the first DNA that ever was, but the first surviving strand, that line. So my blood's been here on that level for a fucking long ass time. I can't not curse. I just can't. But I'm not just the human blood form. I'm a spirit that's come here in this body. The first time I meditated, oh my God, so many symbols came through, and I was like, what the holy hell? I don't even know what this means. I just recently learned what, okay, it's so obvious. So the first thing that came through was I saw myself wings, and I'm like, what's that even mean? An egg with wings. All right, I'm going to give you a moment. Anyone? What does that symbol mean? Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. Do, 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 do. I'm just singing you the Jeopardy's, like have a moment to write your answer. I have no rhythm except for my own. And it's gonna get you. It's gonna get you one way or another. All right, I'll just tell you. Sacred vessel, divine vessel. Egg is a symbol of being the vessel, being that container. The wings, divine, angelic. Birds are messengers for the divine, right? Oh, I love you, Flight Risk. Oh, and all of you, sorry. I'm just going to have to say, like, Mew90, S. Lewis, Ryan, I know some of your names off as well. But anyway, yes. Double mission, ladies, channeling and uplifting humanity. But even if you're here being a light worker or whatever you want to call it, you have to do it for yourself as much so, if not more. Amy. Hi, Amy. Sorry. Oh my God. ADHD, party of 19,001. And I'm an INFJ, sometimes ENFJ with the right people. You have to self-care, put all of that into yourself, gas mask on first, then out. Some of the coping mechanisms I'll give you right quick, and I'm gonna have to go, but get back to the cards, finish this up. But first, put yourself into your container, whether it's an egg, the triangle, the pyramid. Feed yourself the healing energies. Put up your deflections so that that which isn't in your high good can be off of you. First, I saw myself. They gave me this bit to be a sun catcher, so that wherever I was, I could reflect or like utilize and grow the light that's there. Then I became a disco ball, so that again, I can be that, but multifaceted and rainbow sun catcher of like party delightfulness, but not a note, because break free of the box. You're more than just a label. You're more than just a square. You're a cube. You're more than just a triangle. You're a pyramid. Like not one-dimensional. You're not two-dimensional. You're not three-dimensional. You are this expansive, multifaceted, multi-dimensional. Breathe into it. Expand. All right. When you're an empath, a lot of times you have to really sit with whether or not your feeling is yours or you're feeling those around you. It's gotten to the point where I know when my family members have to pee at night and it wakes me up and I get really annoyed because I'm like, oh my God, I just peed. Like, I didn't pee. I peed for you and I can't pee for you. Right? Boundaries, awareness. That's why putting yourself into your egg is important so that you can really ascertain you and what is the environment, the people around you. There are times where you can't always walk away from people that aren't treating you well. It's not always simple, nor should it be, nor should you. Because sometimes in facing conflict, that's what the healing can be, instead of just hightailing it out of the situation every time, because you're just going to keep having the same experience just with someone else. Sometimes learning and going through their own stuff, they do out a bunch of bullshit or gaslight you at times, and that's where you just have to like, okay, see myself in my golden canary light body, and I'm going to put my little canary gas mask on so that you can gaslight all you want. I'm not breathing it in. I'm not picking it up. No, thank you. Or just simply I recognize this person's losing their shit right now. I'm not going to pick it up. I'm not going to take it personally. Go ahead. Bounce it off. Transmute. Sometimes I'll even just sit there in my mind and like transmute, or return to sender, address unknown, no such number, no such zone. However get through, not have the nasty, and then regret fell prey to the lower right. And sometimes your best in every moment, and then you just self accountable and in loving whomever, whatever, dog, human, bottle, ball, whatever. I'm sorry I behaved that way. Let's move forward and not repeat perhaps that. All right, tarot. I'm just going to close this down and get all the cards out so that I can get on to doing the practical things in my life and not just this set. I do have a bunch of dishes in the sink and things of that nature because I am more than just a spiritual body. I am here choosing to have a human experience to be here with you. There are many times where I'm like, there's not enough going on in the world for me to handle this right now. Because sometimes, even though I willingly sign up and want actively to be the barometer that I am, sometimes I'm like, oh, I need a vacation. Oh my God. And there are a lot of times where I really have to close down the tabs, close out the browsers, shut down the connections that aren't serving me actively, readily, overly, and over, because we're constantly in need of being aware of where our boundaries are, if they've changed, if they've been breached, if they need repair, all of that. I might be repeating myself. All right, there. Done. Let's wrap this up. While it's not the full moon in Leo, we got full moon in Leo. Don't let pride get in your way. Yeah. Don't let pride get in your way. Don't give it all away either. That's not the answer. A lot of times we will go hard swing another direction to counterbalance something when that just throws you for a loop in a different direction. And it's that, what would Aslan do? Narnia. It's the best of you to where you're arrogant or you don't listen or you think you know everything, because when you're in new terrain, the same rules won't always apply. So recently, while I'm learning to be my own authority and my own badass, I also have been told to learn patience, be persistent, and go into it with the eyes of my inner child, always eager to learn and grow. And I don't just want to teach, I like to be a practitioner, I like to be actively with clients, because that's how I best learn, is through connecting with other people. The reason why we're all here initiative together. So don't hide in your way. Become your own authority, but be humble with your pride. Elephant, grounding. Ground your energies and emotions deep into the earth. Okay, so we just had yesterday an alignment that we had in the 1856 was the exact year. I'm really bad with remembering all the details. But we 2 years ago had the planetary alignment that was the same configuration as the American Revolution. Then we had like other times where it's like Tiananmen Square. Where I'm going with this, we've been having these periods of growth through tension and conflict, much like we have in the past. I read something recently with the most recent configuration where at that time in history, it was a time where we had an advancement in spiritualism. Museums were coming out to the forefront, and one aspect, it was women's way of being heard where they weren't elsewhere or elsewise. And it's knowing what I know anthropologically and spiritually speaking, I'm watching where we are right now. A couple years ago, I was really nervous kind of coming out of the spiritual closet to my clients, and telling them, I'm more than just a hairstylist. I've been practicing divination since I was 15. If you'd like me to more actively help you than what you're somewhat perceiving when you're with me in the chair. I mean, if I had $1 for every time someone told me that I was so much more valuable to them than their shrink or their psychologist or what have you, I'm not belittling that at all. But when you're in my chair getting your hair done, you're getting energy healing, you're getting psychic advice, you're getting so much more than a haircut. And it was that playing field where I really became cognizant of who and what I was and what I had to offer. Now, since then, in the last 2 or so years, that has really had an uptick in momentum where people are way more interested in allowing for the psychic abilities like clairvoyance, claircognizance, psychometry. They're starting to realize that certain arenas where like dumping grounds, like where they would put people that they didn't understand into groups like schizophrenia, anxiety, autism, some of these places where they're like, oh, well, you're different, go here. We don't really understand all the way, and we recognize that they're not all the same, and there's variations and nuances, but unexplainable go in this category. They're starting in these sciences to recognize pieces, the clairaudience is. I spoke to one person who in the spectrum, and they had a hard time engaging with other people, and it made it difficult for them. But in the conversation, they had claircognizance of the clairvoyance, and that was what they needed to work with and deal with, than it being some disability or chemical imbalance. Or where I'm going with this is we are becoming more open-minded as to what is affecting us, what has impact on us, what we might be receptive or perceptive to. And drastically so in the last few years. More and more people are learning more about meditation. They're learning more about how important being in nature is. Earth-bathing, the value of having your feet in the grass isn't something where people are just going to look at you like, oh, you're a weirdo hippie. I'm just saying, we have made drastic improvements on a spiritual ground, much like we did in the 1800s, mid 1800s. And that is of great value. And we don't know the ramifications or ripple effects of that expansive thought process. I mean, I've been telling people in the business world, I'm like, in the future, hear me out. You're going to have intuitives on the teams to help you, like they do in Star Trek with having Deanna Troi. Just saying. All right. Lime. Gratitude. Trigger statement, I'm overwhelmed. True statement, I'm moving. And again, this is why I'll do my tuning into the energies and just letting it pour out and having faith that it will come together. And yes, I'm overwhelmed because I'm someone new. I don't know what's happening. I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what to do exactly with what's here, but I'm going to learn how to work with whatever's here at the workbench. And I'm going to have faith that I'll do my best. I might have to make the way, but I will do it. The time for planning is complete. Take action, no matter how small. Begin today. One step. Breathe. Next step. Breathe. Next step. Breathe. And yes, coming out is a scary thing, no matter what it is. And once you do it, and people who don't support you, well, they weren't really, truly your X, Y, or Z friend, whatever. And it's sad. You'll have to grieve what falls away. And then what stays, what remains is of the true value in the situation anyway, right? Like you're growing wheat. You love seeing the wheat in the field. Time to make the bread. You might have to grieve the loss of the shaft, but whole, I don't even know what the hell I'm talking about. This channeling. Anyway, you grieve the parts that go, perhaps repurpose them into something. If not, the ritual and the thanks and the gratitude, and let them go for the sake of what you're working with to create the new. Two of inspirations is the bottom of the deck, the overarching theme. And twos are about coming together and about choices. The wands, it's our passion, our soul, our the magic. I think of the wands as if you're the magician, the wand is what helps you dream it into being, what helps you draw it all together. So free will, we have it, right? You have a choice. Do you want to put your hat on and run in and do something? Or do you want to lament that it's not the same as it had been? Is one message for some of you. Because look, this is to me, speaking, I'll show close-ups. You're breaking out of a pattern to find the groove, and there's that telescope because you're looking forward into the new horizon so that you can take the steps one by one to get there. You don't have to make all the choices at once. Take one choice at a time, one step. Where you are currently in the journey, 6 of materials. 6 come after 5s, which is the conflict, the challenge in which we grow. The 6 is the movement forward. 6 is a number of love, reciprocity. And so you see, this has 2 people with a rose between them. And it's just that where you are now is really, you should sit with yourself, all of yourselves. Sit with your higher self, sit with your inner child, sit with your teenage self if need be. Sit in that heart space, collect yourself together. What is it that you wish to lovingly dream into being and contribute for yourself and that world around you? Then we got the 4 of materials, or 4 of coins in reverse, and it's the letting go of false foundations to create solid foundations for ourselves. And again, you have to put as much into your own personal foundation as you do externally out in the world. Then the advice from Spirit, 5 of cups, 5 of emotions. Let go. Right, so 5 of emotions, 5 of cups would denote, in the traditional sense, there's a person that has 2 cups and they're walking away from 3 because those cups don't serve them anymore, and they're taking the loss, but going forward with what they can work with and what they really find meaningful. But there's still that sense of loss. Now, reverse, I want you to consider, sit with the grief, but know that it wasn't what was working for you for a reason. It wasn't what was best for you for a reason. You think it for the lesson, and then more so stick into that cap that there's something that is better suited to you out there. So don't get caught up in the sad part as much. Acknowledge it, let it go, and more so have that eager anticipation of something that's better suited coming. Because the end result of following all of the creating your own stable foundation for yourself as well as externally, and being eager to fill your own cup with the things that are better suited to your wealth and growing and flourishing. The Queen of Voices is the Queen of Swords, and it is moving forward. In this card, they have this woman surrounded by ravens or crows, and the swords are our mental body. And when you get to the queen stage, that is the person seeing who was pulling up, who has worked hard, selves in order. It's still a work in progress, but in that gaining authority of your mental body, you learn how to communicate. You realize in the process of gaining balance of your mental body that it isn't solely a mental game. Your mental body is one aspect that a lot of us let rule us, but it needs to be balanced. And in a traditional sense, you'll see this card having water beneath the Queen of Swords' feet a lot of times, or around them. And it's because that mental clarity comes from being equally engaged with your mental body as well as your spiritual. In this aspect, a lot of times you want to tie together your mental, your spiritual, your physical, and your emotional bodies in order to create the balance to move forward. Now, personally, there's more than just that to be worked with, right? But at the moment, where we are right now, really sit. Like, instead of vilifying your emotions, just like our bodies physically give us signals and cues to what it needs, or if there's it has us symptoms and signals we can, if we're paying attention, address those. Our emotions, similarly, think about it as our heart's way of signaling to us we need something to be addressed, whether that's a boundary or childhood wound, or you might be, the heart has a great capacity for so much that most people won't even sit for a second to consider. They think it's this weak, needs to be protected organ or facet of their emotions, and it is the strongest, most courageous part of you that oftentimes, because we become so defensive, that is where we create more problems for ourselves than not. Because some of the advice in the Queen of Swords is to not become too cold and stay very much present in those emotions, to be more of a benevolent leader than a cold, austere one instead, which we've enough of that, right? Anyway, that's a lot. We are going through a lot for great purpose. So breathe, acknowledge all your parts and pieces. Don't just sweep your emotions under the rug or chastise them. They have great value. You don't let them rule you either. Just like you don't want to become too cold and pragmatic, you don't want to be too emotional. In the middle. It's hard as hell. It really is, especially when it's not just you. But let's do it together. Yeah. So anyway, anyone have any last statements before I see you next time? over and out. Anything? Anyone? I just felt like I just held the floor for a really long time. I love having the space with you all very much, and look forward to building more and more community and knowing more of you more intimately than just trying to like sacred psyche hello, because there are a lot of people I've met out here in the virtual world, along with the people that I have to say thank you, no thank you. So let's turn social media into less of a negative space and more of a heart space. So yes, thank you, Mu90. I'm very happy to have met you through this process. All of you, best wishes, all the love. I am here to work with you should you like. My information boxes and whatnot have that information. The rainbow frequency 77 at Gmail should you want to email me. Anyway, wishes, all the love, be well holistically. I'll see